Welcome to Cyber Week 2022. We are back and so excited to have you join us from all over the world in Tel Aviv, the cyber capital. Over the last 12 years, Cyber Week has become one of the most important cybersecurity conferences in the world. If you are looking for top content, world-class thought leaders, expert ideas, and professional networking, then this is the place to be. Our week is packed with over 30 conferences, roundtables, and networking events, all featuring cyber innovation and technologies that are changing the world. Cyber Week is hosted by the Blavatnik Interdisciplinary Cyber Research Center and the Yuval Workshop for Science, Technology, and Security at Tel Aviv University, together with the Israel National Cyber Directorate. Today's main plenary features international experts sharing their ideas on cyber stability, the role of cyber in wartime, CISO pain points, and more. Don't miss out on more incredible sessions taking place around the university this afternoon. We are about to begin. Take your seats. Day 3 of the Cyber Event of the Year starts now.
Actually, you can tell.
Good morning. I'm proud and excited to open the second day of Cyber Week. This is the second day of our main plenary and the third day of Cyber Week. I hope you all had a productive day yesterday at our main plenary and all the events in the afternoon, including our startup sessions. Today, we have another impressive lineup of expert speakers who will share their knowledge and expertise with you. We have an extremely exciting day planned with talks from a range of esteemed cybersecurity leaders and an address from our Minister of Defense, Benny Gantz. I would like to take the opportunity to once again thank our amazing Cyber Week team, our sponsors, partners, speakers, and everyone who took time out of their busy calendars to be here with us today. I'm also happy to announce that Cyber Week 2023 will take place from June 25th to June 29th. We look forward to seeing you all there. But first, it is my honor to call onto the stage Major General Professor Isaac Ben Israel, the father of Israel's cyber revolution and head of Cyber Week. Have a wonderful Cyber Week.
Morning again. I wouldn't welcome again everyone that was here yesterday, but all the new ones. We are in the middle of this conference. We still have some amazing events, I would say. Some of them, by the way, you wouldn't see anywhere in the place, in the world. In 2 hours, for example, if you could look at the hall called Barshia, you could see there some 500 high school kids, which you discussing cybersecurity and not coming to see, because we teach cybersecurity in high school, and this is only one of the, I would say, unique things that happen in Israel and make this Israel generally and this conference especially so special. I'm very glad that you took the effort to come, and we have a full day of discussions today and as well as tomorrow, and I hope that you will find it as interesting as the previous days. Thank you very much.
Hello, everybody. Good morning. How are you? Yay! Good morning. I'm very excited to have you here. This is the second day of the main plenary. As Itzik said, we have such an amazing plan ahead of us. So many amazing speakers, so many amazing different events as part of the Cyber Week. After the main plenary ends, let me just remind you that we're going to have another other events, and I'm going to talk about them a bit later. Now, in the short time that I have, I want to talk to you about cyber crisis management. Some of you might know I'm the CTO of the Cyber Research Center here, but also I'm a partner that doesn't work. I'll be back in a second. Oh, it works. ניסיתי את שניהם. תן לי רגע. תן לי שנייה. Yes, it works. Okay. So, cyber crisis management. We're going to start all over. My name is Mendy Barzilai. I already told you about that. I'm a partner and a co-founder of a company called Cytactic. The only thing that we do in Cytactic is cyber crisis management. We help organizations to deal with crisis the moment it starts. We usually meet companies in their worst time, but also we help organizations to build their resilience, to build their readiness to deal with the crisis. If they invest the time and effort beforehand, they are much prepared when the crisis starts. So welcome to the Cyber Week. I already told you about that, and if you want to learn more about who I am and what I do, you can just look at my website or join my newsletter. So, why are we here? 3 reasons I wanted to talk to you about when I talked about cyber crisis management. Number one, our classic cybersecurity approach. So in the past, people like me, cybersecurity expert, we woke up every morning and we asked ourselves one question, and the question designed our entire cybersecurity approach, and the question was, will someone be able to get in? And obviously we wanted the answer to be no. So what did we do? We implemented firewalls to keep all the bad guys outside and all the good guys inside. And then we implemented more firewalls to keep all the users on one side and all the servers and systems on the other side. And then we implemented more firewalls and more firewalls and more firewalls, and we were so happy. The thing is that in today's world, this is obviously not enough. We live in a world where everything is hackable. It's just a matter of time before every organization on earth will experience some kind of a cyber incident, and usually it will become a crisis. Actually, we have to admit the fact that organizations are just in one of two states. Either they are before a crisis or during crisis. This is it. Those are the two options. But don't worry. That doesn't mean that we don't have the ability to be secure. There is an ability to be secure. That just means that we need to invest in more than just prevention. Obviously, we know that. We have to balance between prevention, detection, and response. And that brings me to the second point that I wanted to make. The thing is that the industry shifted. We moved from talking only about prevention to talking about detection. At some point, we all went on stages and we started saying prevention is not enough, we should invest in detection. And at some point, we became pretty good at detection with MSSPs, SOAR, new type of SIM systems, EDRs, and so on and so forth. And now we understand that even though we know how to detect those incidents, if we don't have the plan to respond, we are in a bit of a problem. So there is a shift we are starting to see a shift towards response. But the thing is that we are very good with the prevention, very, very good. Firewalls, antiviruses, network segmentations, USB restriction, we're very good with that. We're pretty good with detection, but we're terrible, terrible with response. Why? Well, there are several reasons for that. Well, reason number one, that when talking about prevention, there is a clear throat to choke in the organization. There is someone who is in charge of that, and that would be the CISO. This is the person in charge of prevention. And when talking about detection, there is a clear one throat to choke. There is a person in charge of that, and that would be the CISO. But when talking about response is a multidisciplinary problem. It sits on the shoulders of many different people inside the organization. The legal counsel, the public relation person, the business continuity person, the financial person, the insurance person, the human resource, so many different people inside the organization. And as you can see, they run away. They don't want this responsibility. This is not their main job. The second thing that we need to understand is that they have conflicting agendas. Those different people sometimes want to do different things during crisis. For example, the legal people might say, okay, we have a crisis, we want to disclose it. While the PR people will say, no, we don't want anyone to know that we have a crisis. The IT team, The business continuity people might say, reinstall the systems as soon as possible. We want to go back on live. The forensics people might say, don't touch anything. We want to collect the evidence, and if you will reinstall the systems, we will not have the ability to do that. The business people might say, pay the ransom. This is the quickest way to solve the problem. The PR and the legal will say, no, we don't want to pay the ransom and create some legal risk, or we don't want people to know that we pay the ransom. And so those many different people have different agendas. And this is a hard task to manage those different agendas and make sure they are all aligned. This is why crisis management is so, so important. Another problem with response is that with traditional cybersecurity solutions, you can scale them. If you have a firewall, everybody can use this firewall. If you have SIM systems, everybody can use this system. But every crisis has its own super unique DNA. And you need to find a tailor-made solution specifically for the organization. There is no one-size-fits-all, so you need to do something which is heavily involves premium services. And this is not an easy problem to solve. And the third thing that I wanted to tell you is that being ready really makes a difference. And we manage many crises around the world. And there is a huge difference between companies that were ready to deal with the crisis as opposed to those companies who never thought about it before the crisis started. So you will eventually get to the newspaper with a big incident. It's gonna happen. But if you have invested the time and effort in making sure you're prepared, you can be much more relaxed during the crisis. Well, maybe not that much of a relaxed. Being inside a crisis is a stressful situation, but generally speaking, you can be much more relaxed. So I don't have any time. I just want to finish with this slide. I want to tell you what does it mean to be prepared to deal with the crisis. Number one, it means make sure you are ready to manage the crisis. Number two, make sure you're ready to handle the crisis. And number three, make sure you know how to recover from a crisis. And I can deep dive into each and every one of those topics, but we're going to do that when I'm off stage. Thank you so much. Without further ado, I want to call the next speaker to the stage, Colonel Uri, who's Deputy Commander of Unit 8200 in the Israeli Defense Force. I'm sure everybody heard about 8200. Uri, the stage is yours.
Hi, thank you, and good morning. Thank you for the introduction and the invitation to talk in this great conference. My last talk in this campus was 15 years ago when I defended my PhD thesis. I have to say it was a little bit less crowded than it is today. So anyway, I'm happy to be here. This is our first official public appearance. So please let me start by saying a few words on the unit. We're Israel's national SIGINT and cyber unit. We're part of the defense intelligence in the IDF. Our mission is intelligence collection on crucial threats to Israel for the IDF and for Israel's policymakers. We're also a major player in cyber domain in Israel and play a role in Israel's cyber defense. A few words on our operating system. It is based on two pillars. First, we do data collection. It comes from various sources through our partners, but mainly through cyber accesses to adversary networks and to terrorists' infrastructure and personas. We then hold a large data set on which the IDF's intelligence bases its research. We're processing it with high-end data analysis tools, which we develop mostly in-house. 3 facts about us. First fact, like it or not, we work in quite a tough neighborhood. This leads to ongoing high friction in a dynamic and intense environment. We have new challenges each day. When we succeed, we save lives. When we fail, this becomes a major problem for our nation. Second fact, we're privileged to have a huge amount of talent. Each year, we recruit more than 1,000 of the brightest girls and boys in Israel, as they joined the IDF at the age of 18. This also makes our personnel very young. Over 70% are under the age of 23. 20 years ago, I was one of them. Third fact, our core values are democratic values and ethics. We have military decision-making procedures while allowing individuals to express their opinions and concerns. The combinations of these three makes us quite unique, comparing to other similar agencies and units. Let me now move on to our part in cyber defense. We're running counter-cyber operations in the unit. It is for the purpose of identifying, monitoring, and mitigating cyber threats in Israel. 8200's counter-cyber operations are a major part of Israel's cyber defense strategy, fully collaborating with our cyber defense partners. We would begin our operation with a lead coming from the IDF's Defense Division or another Israeli agency. This would be some technical info on an attacker that is currently targeting victims in Israel. We would then research it using our passive collection and some other tricks which we developed in the past few years. As you can imagine, our experience acting in this domain helps us get into the attacker's head. Our goal is to reveal the adversary's attack and understand its method. We might be able to identify and attribute the attacker. We might find other victims, not necessarily in Israel, that are under a threat. Once we obtain superiority over the attacker, we then act to deny their capabilities. First of all, by collaborating with industry and other agencies, but if necessary, we do it on our own, implementing our tools at some point along the attack stream. Be assured, 8200 won't rest until the threat is removed. Now, when do we apply these methods? I'll mention two examples from recent years. In the first case, an adversary attacked water treatment facilities in Israel. We saw this careless attacker attempting to poison the water in order to claim human lives. We mitigated that threat far ahead. Another adversary from this region attacked in Israel. We initialized a CCO and found out they're also trying to attack power plants in the US. This was the first indication for that attack. It enabled preventing this threat through our tight collaboration with our fantastic US partners. Now, this would be a good point to recall the uniqueness I mentioned before, resulting from our friction, talent, and values. I'd like to mention two of our informal responsibilities. And because of this uniqueness, I actually see them as real duties of our unit. The first informal responsibility is to help set the norms for cyber activity. We are committed to restrained use of the power we produce, but due to our high friction, this is really challenging. So what are we doing about that? First of all, we carefully choose our targets, and our actions go through a strict approval process. Second, we produce our own high-end capabilities, and we fully control its proportional usage. If there is an option our capabilities would fall into the wrong hands, we would disclose them immediately to the InfoSec industry, making sure they're patched. And it's not just a theoretical statement. We test our tools thoroughly, making sure there are no unwanted effects. However, most importantly, we have a culture of ethics. Our soldiers and officers at all levels can voice concerns and raise difficult questions. They know they have impact. It makes our soldiers proud of their work in 8200. This is actually also the main reason why I'm standing here today in this unnatural environment for me. I believe government agencies like us together with the private sector, should discuss these issues. I'm proud of our norms, and we want to contribute. Now to the second responsibility that we have, which is to the Israeli society. The unit provides opportunities to our talented soldiers. We understand that. The diversity of our recruits influences the diversity in our high-tech industry and the diversity in Israel. It is our duty to constantly improve it. We partner in high school technological education programs in the peripheral areas in Israel. In the past decade, among the cyber experts we recruit each year, the part of girls and boys from these areas raised from just a few percent to more than 1/3. Last year, together with other units in the IDF, we expanded these programs from high schools to junior highs. Next year, it will take place in more than 20 local authorities. We expect more than 20,000 students to participate in those programs. I'm sure it will create the revolution of the next decade. I'll now conclude by saying that first, we are here, and we're willing to collaborate. Most of what we do will have to remain top secret, but I think some aspects of the way we do it can and should be discussed. Second, we're preventing cyber threats on Israelis, and we assure that Israel remains the leading power in technology and cyber in our region. Third, our unique and informal responsibilities are actually duties, and we take them very seriously. To our democratic values, to the norms in cyber domain, and to the Israeli society. I'd like to thank you for your patience. I'll ask you to now just forget my name and enjoy the rest of this great conference. Thank you once again.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I want to call to the stage. I want to do that very, very fast so we would move forward to the next speaker. Just a quick question again, just to realize who are you. If you are from abroad, please raise your hand. If you are from Israel, please raise your hand. Again, we have almost 50%. That's amazing, amazing, amazing. I'm very happy about that. Everybody from abroad, thank you so much for taking the time traveling to Israel. Thank you. Israelis, please, big round of applause for everybody who came from abroad. So without further ado, I want to call the next speaker to the stage, Matanyahu Englman. He is a state comptroller and Ombudsman Israel. Please take the stage and please find an easier title to pronounce.
Thank you very much, Professor Yitzhak Ben Israel, Conference Chairman, dear all. Cyber today, wait a minute, I would like to have my, cyber today is more important than ever. In a way, we are all living inside the global Big Brother show. As Israel State Comptroller and Vice President of EuroSci, the European organization of 49 Supreme Audit institutions, I must share with you a pessimistic statement. We are exposed. The citizens of the world have no protection. Our data are visible to too many people. Our money is exposed, our children are exposed, our health is exposed, our security is exposed. World War III will be a cyber war, but the world is not prepared for cyber attacks. In the past, I served as Vice President and CEO of the Technion and was exposed to the wonders of technology and the dangers of cyber. Therefore, upon entering my current position as State Comptroller 3 years ago, And in view of the growing cyber threats faced by the State of Israel in recent years, I have decided to place the cyber field as one of the core issues that the audit will address. A cyber audit division and a dedicated division for information systems auditing were established. At first, there were those who raised an eyebrow. Today, there is no one who does not understand the importance of the subject. The International Auditors Organization as well stated that such protection of information systems is one of the biggest risks. In the context of cyber audits conducted, the following are being examined: privacy protection, control and protection mechanisms of the computerized systems, investment in IT and cyber protection, advanced preparedness for cyber incidents and disaster recovery, the level of logical and physical protection, insurance coverage, and more. We examine these matters in 4 spheres. First sphere, cyber attacks and damage to critical state infrastructure. For example, once again, I want to return back. Okay, sorry. Cyber attacks and damage to critical state infrastructure. For example, we recently conducted a cyber audit at the IEC, the Israel Electric Corporation. Second sphere, privacy infringement. For example, we examined the protection of biometric databases. And we found that the Ministry of Transportation does not examine aspects of information security and protection of passenger privacy, for example, of the RAVCAV, which is a database operated by the public transportation companies that include also photos of about 1 million children in Israel and information about their travels. Furthermore, in February 2022, we published a special report on the issue of protection of children and youth in the online space. Last sphere, the public expenditure in the field of IT and the rate of expenditure on cyber protection. Now I will share with you the key insight that emerged from the audits we conducted in the cyber field. First insight, the absence of binding regulation and the absence of a guiding and binding government body for all sectors of the economy. The National Cyber Directorate is empowered to guide several entities that hold critical national infrastructures. However, the audit found that entire sectors do not have a guide in the cyber field, including the health sector, the transport sector, local government, and more. The cyber report on the IIC raised that the IIC, the Israeli electrical company, is defined as critical infrastructure and is guided by the National Cyber Directorate. But IIC power plants operated by private parties, which is in 2020 supplied 39% of the amount of electricity in Israel and is expected to supply 62% in 2025, are not defined as critical infrastructure and were referred to the Ministry of Energy for guidance, and differences were found between the guidelines. Second insight, gaps in logical and physical defense. Lack of awareness of public bodies to their duty to protect the information in their possession. For example, a report on the computer system of the Central Election Commission in Israel. And as you are aware, we are quite expert in election processes, that now we are facing already the 5th one within 3 years. We found out that their main computer system began operating in 2008, and now it celebrates a bar mitzvah. And yet, cyber audits were conducted only during election periods. So it was not possible to conduct comprehensive and complex tests that included all aspects required under cyber defense theory. We recommended that cyber tests will be taken not as part of the election process, but much earlier in order that the system will be ready for election anytime. Third insight, the lack of preparedness of law enforcement agencies in handling cybercrime. In 2020, the total damages of cybercrime worldwide were estimated at about $6 trillion and are expected to increase. It was found that the law enforcement authorities in Israel do not have the ability to contend with cybercrime and ransomware. In the report, we noted that 87% of cyberspace crime victims in Israel in 2019, about 200,000 people, did not report to the police of the offenses committed against them. My office intends to conduct cyber audits in all sectors, including verifying cyber audits by regulators and control mechanisms in public bodies. For example, these days, we are examining whether the supervisor of banks in the central bank is ensuring the bank's readiness for cyber attacks, and the Israeli tax authorities' readiness concerning cyber incidents. As the state controller, I see significant importance in conducting penetration tests as part of the state audit by hacker companies on our behalf. Thus, for example, in the past year, we have performed penetration tests on the Traffic Management Center in Jerusalem, on hospitals, and on the tax authority systems. In the audits, we found significant deficiencies, including that very few penetration tests were performed by public bodies, and some of them conducted penetration tests only during the audits. The absence of the test environment for performing these tests, and other deficiencies that arose in the penetration tests we conducted, some of which were rectified in the course of the audit. I will further share with you that I recently initiated the establishment of an international working group on cyber auditing within the EuroSci organization. The auditing world views cyber risks as a major risk. The challenges involved in coping with the matter are complex, and they require continuous cooperation between states for optimal contention with cyber risks. We in the State Controller's Office are committed to continuing to address this significant topic even more forcefully for the benefit of the citizens of Israel and the entire world. Thank you very much, and enjoy your stay here.
Thank you so much for your work and everything that you do.